Right, welcome back. As I mentioned before in your overview video for the week, I would be making a second video talking more specifically about your periodic table scavenger hunt activity, which involves you using an interactive website. That's also included on the sheet or on the page on OneNote at the top of your page. So let's go ahead and take a look at that, see what we're doing here, and I'll kind of guide you through some of the key components, some of the key features of this website, which will hopefully help you guys out with this. So over on your list of items for the week, you'll see that in your checklist for the week, the third item for at home is this activity periodic table scavenger hunt, which is located in OneNote. Now for this, it's going to be the second item down. The first thing you should do is go ahead and open this web page here, since you are going to be using this for this entire online portion. So go ahead and click on that website. And if the website pops up that looks like this, you have navigated to the correct place. Otherwise, if for some reason the link is not working or it's being an error is appearing or it's being blocked, go ahead and type this website up here directly into your URL and hit enter. Or you can even go or backdoor it and go to Google, type this into your search engine, and that website should appear. There's a couple different ways you can get to this if the link on OneNote does not work. So this is your periodic table scavenger hunt website. This is the thing that's going to be your interactive, and this is going to be the thing you're going to be using to answer all your questions on that sheet. The first thing I want to point out here is everything you see on this screen is interactive. Each box that's on here is a box for one of the elements on our periodic table. As you hover over it, you'll see that there are some kind of key things that appear. You'll see that the element's information is provided right here, your atomic mass, atomic number, the element symbol in the element's name, as well as some of the key features of that specific element. Some other things that you'll notice with this website is it also tells you about the supply risk, which is represented by one of the colors listed up above. And this is for every element on the periodic table. So once again, all these are interactive. The other thing to point out is the items up here are also interactive. So you can either have an image of the element symbol, or by clicking on visual elements images, you can switch to something that represents that element through a picture of some type. But for the most part, the easiest way to view this is through your, typical periodic table view. Other things to notice up here is you can adjust the temperatures. And by adjusting or tweaking the temperature, it is nice that these things are provided in Kelvin and Celsius. So in science we use Celsius, not Fahrenheit. But as you adjust the temperature, it will let you know what elements are in a solid, which ones appear at a liquid, and which ones are stated in a gas form. So currently when we're up here, I'm going to go ahead and tweak this a little bit. When we are, get this a little more realistic. So when we are at about 72 degrees Celsius, these elements are going to be in a gas form, these dark blues would be in a liquid form, and the light blues would be in solid. And as we decrease in temperature, you'll notice that the majority of everything will be in a solid, just for the fact that we're approaching absolute zero, which means everything's going to be in a frozen state. And then as we increase in temperature, you'll notice that as the things become hotter and hotter and hotter, things are going to becoming a gas because we are now evaporating. So this is going to be your temperature gauge. By tweaking this, you can determine the temperature or the states of matter these elements will appear in. Continuing up here, we have a tab where it's a metal tab. So these are going to show what elements are metals. And more specifically, we have this dotted box which represents metalloids, which are going to be these over here kind of on this stair pyramid. So we have boron, which if you click directly on it, it'll show you more features. And then we go down with our Si, Ge, As, Sb, and Te. So it talks about our metalloids and different metals. By clicking on the nonmetals, which by what the name implies, this is going to show you your nonmetals that are on your periodic table. By clicking clear filters, this will reset your periodic table back to its default setting. You'll notice that there's these boxes down here. This first one here, these groups represent your vertical column. So group 1 is the vertical column on the far left. Group 18, as you might have guessed or assume, is your vertical column on the far right. So group 1 is on the far left, group 18 is on the far right, and the other groups fall in between. So if we have a name that associates with the vertical columns, we also have a name that associates with our horizontal. And our horizontal rows are going to be called periods. And these are going to be the ones that run from left to right. So period 1 is going to be the very first row, which is your hydrogen and helium. And period 7 is going to be that very bottom row, with all of your other elements falling in between. So for example, if I were to say, in group 1, period 4, what element is being represented? So group 1 is your vertical column. Period 4 is that horizontal. Well, the one that falls in group 1, period 4 is potassium, represented by the letter K. So there will be a couple questions dealing with that. There's also a couple things talking about blocks, which this is a little more advanced than what we're going to get into. And there's a couple other features that you can click on that explains these bottom 2 rows that are often overlooked. So this is the home page, the very simple overview of your periodic table scavenger hunt. This is the home page, the home view. Now questions 1 through 8, and I'm going to switch back to OneNote here. So questions 1 through 8 will all be done on the home page, on that first link that you see, the one that we were just going through. You see there's questions about temperature, questions about groups, talking about which ones are considered the noble gases, which ones are reactive, which ones are those metalloids, once again, which groups contain nonmetals. So that's talking about groups and nonmetals. So there's 2 different parts you'll be manipulating with that. And then there's that visual elements images where you're just going to click on 5 of your choice and explain 2 interesting facts about them. So once again, questions 1 through 8 are going to be done on this front page. Now, when you get to questions 9 through 11, this involves you going to a different tab within this website. So if you scroll to the very top of your page here, you have some additional tabs at the top. You have your home, which was where we're at. You have a history tab, an alchemy tab, a podcast tab, and a video tab. There's a trends, but we are not going to be using that for this activity. So for questions 9 through 11, you're going to be going to the history tab, which is on this page. This is specifically going to talk about the historical importance, discoveries of these elements. Now, this is kind of really cool and really neat. In this box up here, you can type any year in this box, and it will show you what elements were known at that time. So let's go ahead and just type in, for example, the 1600s. And by clicking go, your periodic table, these were the only known elements in the 1600s. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 known elements here. So that's all that was known in the 1600s. Now if I type in the 1800s, we see that we gained a few more important elements. If we go to, let's say, 2000, or actually we're going to go 2004, which was the year some of you, if not most of you, were born, you'll see that the majority of our periodic table has been completed, with the exception of a couple lingerers down there. And then if we go ahead and we type in 2021, which is, well, today, we'll see that our current in modern periodic table has been filled out. So the first thing here is you can manipulate the year, and you can see which elements were known at that time. And as you hover over each element, it gives you a little description about what it is. So like for boron, we see that it was these are the people who discovered it, where they discovered it, the year they discovered it, and it even goes as far to explain to you what the origin of the name is and where it comes from. The other thing to note in this page is there's some important discoverers up here. And by clicking on their names, you can see that it highlights the elements that they were responsible for. So we have Madame Curie here, which if you have taken chemistry, you know that she has a lot to do with radium and X-rays and things like that. And it would make sense that these two elements will be the ones that she's the most known for. So these different discoverers will explain what these features are or what they discover. So there's two different things that you can interact on this page. There's an alchemy tab, which this is going to be for question number 12. And specifically, you're going to be clicking on this box up here where it says, what is alchemy? And it's going to do a nice description going through, explain what alchemy is. It's going to talk about what the stances of alchemy is, what the perspectives are, and what the overall objective of alchemy is. So that's your alchemy tab. You have a podcast tab, which is kind of a neat little area where you can listen to different podcasts, different audios of these elements. I will warn you, some of these are very dry, rather boring, but there are some that are rather entertaining. They're a little more upbeat. So don't feel like that you have to click one and listen through it if it's really boring, because some of them are, but there are some that are more interactive and a little more fun to listen to. And then finally, so that's going to be for this one here, for your podcast is going to be for question 13. And then finally, your last question on that page, question 14, is going to have you looking at this video portion. So some of these videos are really short, which are like 22 seconds. Some of them can be a little longer. I saw one that was about 9 minutes. Otherwise, it seems like the normal running time is right between 2 and 5 minutes. So this is going to be for question 14. So if I go back to my OneNote once again, as just a refresher, questions 1 through 8 will be found on that home page. Questions 9 through 11 is going to be found on your history tab, which is at the top of that website. Question 12 is going to be found within that alchemy tab at the top of your website, specifically looking at what are the 3 aims of alchemists, and you're going to choose a symbol of your choice. Question 13 is looking at the podcast and clicking one that interests you the most. And then question number 14 is looking at the videos and choosing 2 or 3 to watch, to listen to, and then write down or describe something that you learned from them, from those videos. So, I know this is a very long video, but I wanted to make sure that I spent a little time explaining what these tabs are, what the videos do, where you find these things. So it will help you as you're working on this at home, and you can go back and view and pause it at any point to make sure that you get those important concepts. So, with that being said, if anything comes up, feel free to email your teachers, Mr. Fritz, Mrs. Keefe, or myself, and get some clarification on this. Otherwise, best of luck, and we'll see you in school.